What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to go over what we saw from Cyberpunk 2077 at this Night City Wire event. Now, I obviously did not get to play this game. I'm not one of the people in the media that got to play it, but I wanted to kind of react to what we saw both from the event and what other people are as well saying. You know, IGN published, actually a lot of people, a lot of different publications, right, put out articles talking about this game. Jeff Keighley was talking about it. So a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about this game, and I kind of want to go over kind of a blanketed what we heard from it. So really quickly though, before I get started, I want to promote our Discord, and with Cyberpunk getting closer and closer, the Discord is going to become more important. We do gaming nights, we do movie nights there, a lot of different categories to talk about whatever you guys want. So if you have not yet checked that out, if you're new to the channel, the link for it will be in the description below. So okay, now I'm going to start with the maybe one negative thing, and there's really only one negative thing I feel like I can say, and the rest of it I would say is pretty darn positive. It does look like from especially like the gameplay shown in the trailer, the actual Night City Wire like event they did, it looks a little bit downgraded from the stuff we've seen in the past. Now again, firstly, I should say again, it's really the only negative. Secondly, this is common with literally every single game. They're never going to look as great as they did kind of in like the spotlight in their like prime time when they maybe it's the first time you see them, maybe it's like the second or third time, you know what I mean? But every time any game comes out, even like The Last of Us Part 2 looks incredible, but if you do a comparison to, I believe, like the 2018 gameplay, it does look slightly downgraded. And again, every single game does this. But what I will say is this is running, again, from what they've captured now. It's also, I don't believe this was captured on next gen. So we know that when the game comes out, it's going to come out day and day with next gen consoles. I would almost assume that next gen consoles, when we're playing this game, it is going to look a heck of a lot closer to, again, like the best we've ever seen of Cyberpunk. So, you know, again, is that even really a negative? Not really. It's just the one maybe negative thing that stood out to me. But at the same time, I think this game is going to look absolutely, I think it does look amazing, and I think it absolutely will look even better when we're playing it on next-gen consoles. In terms of what we saw, I really love it. I love, honestly, everything about, you know, what Jeff Keighley was saying, even with all, you know, all these articles that are saying it, the game is immersive. The game puts you in there. You know, they heavily focused on, you know, when she was talking to some of the people that worked on this game, and they talked about how, you know, they are really putting everything into literally everything you're doing, like every storyline, every dialogue conversation, every character. They want it to be deep. They want it to be meaningful. And to be honest with you, you can say that all you want, right? But if it doesn't obviously happen, then you're just saying it. But this game, even from the very short amount of stuff that we saw, and again, obviously you can read a lot of different publications of what they said or because of what they played, it really does seem like that. Literally, I mean, when Jeff Keighley was talking about it, and when I was watching, you know, this gameplay, it really does feel like that to me, that I feel like every single character you're going to talk to or you're going to interact with, or every area you're going to go, every quest you're going to go, it's going to be an actual thing. You know what I mean? There's nothing, and they even said that, there's nothing thrown in there just to throw in there. You know what I mean? There's nothing that's like not really necessary. Everything has purpose to it. I believe that's actually literally a quote that he said. Everything has purpose to it, and that's great. You know, honestly, when it comes to these open world games, that is, to me, that's one of, if not the biggest thing out there. You know, you look at The Witcher 3, that did it so amazingly, and that did it so amazingly so long ago, 5 years ago, and it still holds up to this day. It really is kind of like the gold standard of gaming, of open world gaming, right? I mean, really, what you try and do with any video game is to not have those throwaway things that you put in there just to do it, right? Everything should have meaning. If there's a side quest, you know, obviously it's not going to be as important as main quest, but maybe you learn something there, maybe you interact with these different characters, and maybe at the end of the day, they could be, maybe you like those characters more than certain characters in the main story, you know what I mean? So all of those things are very important, and I feel like if there's anybody, literally any studio out there that can do it, it is CD Projekt Red, that can make, again, every interaction, every single thing you do seem worth it, seem meaningful. And, you know, when I play a game, that is what I'm looking for, especially an open world game. I have a hard time beating games. I have a hard time playing through them. 2020, I've been like 15 games so far this year. I've done a much better job. But even like an example I could go to is like Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, I love Horizon. I think Horizon is a fantastic game, and I can't wait for the second one. But even there, you know, there are definitely things, there's side quests, there's different things you can just do in that game that just aren't as meaningful, aren't as impactful to me as a person than other things in that game. And it's a very hard to reach that balance. Oh, absolutely, it's a very difficult thing. Again, I don't think a lot of games can actually do it, but Cyberpunk, for some reason, Cyberpunk does scream out to me like, hey, if there is a game that can do it, that can make every character, every dialogue, every decision, every area you go into, every side quest, if there's any game that can make those things meaningful, it's Cyberpunk. Really, the only other, I kind of want to talk about like traversal. So we saw driving. I've seen some mixed things. Jeff Keighley said the driving is really good. I've seen a lot of other people say it's not very good. In fact, that's one of the weaker things they experience when playing this game is the driving mechanics aren't the greatest. People have said like, that it wasn't like absolutely perfect what they played, but it was near it. Everybody that's talking about this game is giving it wasn't like this is a disaster. And honestly, I don't know if they would really have, and I don't really know a lot of games in general that would have allowed something like this, and then it comes out and there's just like hundreds of journalists around the world saying like, it was kind of mediocre. You know what I mean? We don't normally get that from games, or at least not all that often. So it kind of is assumed that everybody's going to talk positively, right? Especially because they were the ones given early access, that they would talk positively about this game. But this is a game that you can, I think, believe them. And then one of the last things is the gameplay, the gunfighting and all that kind of stuff. We saw a little bit of that in the trailers, and I was personally watching Jeff Keighley's thing, which the audio was slightly off. You couldn't really hear him, but he showed a little bit of gameplay too in terms of like fighting, and he talked about how it's a more like slower, more like methodical kind of gunfighting that seems different. Like it's gonna feel different. It's gonna take some getting used to. And honestly, I can definitely see that even in the stuff we saw in the trailers. Again, if there is gonna be something, I think in the base game that's going to divide people, and not even divide, but like not everybody, not literally every single person that buys this game is going to love, I think it probably would be the gameplay. I think with the story, because you can choose 3 different factions, and that's going to open up a whole storyline possibilities there. I think the story is going to appeal to which path you go down, right? But I do think, again, if there is one thing that I think could get a little messy, it could be the gunfighting. I like it. I like how it looks. It looks very like Deus Ex-y, which I think IGN in their article they said like it reminds them of that. Jeff Keighley talked about a lot of the like stealing cars and stuff like that. That reminded him of GTA. It feels very GTA in that way. So we'll have to see how it all comes together. But I mean, some mechanics are like GTA, some mechanics are from Deus Ex, and when it comes to the gunfighting, it is a little bit like Deus Ex, which with obviously it being very, very different too. I'm not saying it's like a Deus Ex clone, but I like those. I actually do like those kinds of gameplay, just mechanics in general. Now, I have said, and I've said over the past couple weeks, like The Last of Us Part 2, okay, again, say what you want about the story, but the gameplay in that kind of gameplay world, not every game does that, okay, not every game has that kind of gameplay. I love it. I absolutely love the gameplay of The Last of Us Part 2. Obviously a lot of different games have a lot of different gameplay, and Cyberpunk is a very different kind of gameplay to it. I don't know if we'll be able to say like, oh, it's just the best gameplay mechanics we ever had, but it's not really that kind of game. You know what I mean? Gameplay is there, it's front and center, but there is so much more to this game. So I'm pumped. I'm really, honestly, I didn't really have many expectations for this Night City thing. I didn't really know what they were going to show. I know I'm very excited for this game. I'm going to get it day one. Now that it's been delayed, I'm probably going to get it day one for PS5. Like, I'm all ready to go, but the stuff they showed, it didn't blow my mind. I'm seeing a lot of people out there saying like, oh my dear God, like this is the most, and I mean, it was incredible. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, I loved it. I wasn't like, oh my God, there's the next, my favorite game of all time, but it reaffirmed everything that I've thought about this game, where it's like, it's safe. I think that's what, and by safe, I mean like, it's safe kind of from criticism. Like, I think it's just going to be an amazing game. I think it's going to be very, very good. I don't really think there's going to be any glaring weaknesses. I think across the board, it's going to get high scores. I think it's going to absolutely deserve Game of the Year nomination. You know what I mean? So it's one of those games, and it's a game that I've thought about that, where it's like, I'm going in, I'm expecting it to be a big open world, immersive, tons of stuff to do, me to get invested in all these different storylines, and that's and that's kind of it. That's kind of where I've set my expectations for it. And this Night City event really, again, like affirmed that to me, where it's like, yeah, you're gonna get that. Your app, don't worry about that. In fact, you may want to raise your expectations because it continues to look better and better, but you're gonna get all of that. Like, it's a pretty safe bet that this game is going to be close to like one of those masterpiece games, like a 10 out of 10 game. This looks like a pretty safe bet from everything we've seen. Also, again, obviously having CD Projekt Red with their background of what they've done obviously helps it out quite a bit. So I'm extremely, extremely pumped for this game. As we go on through these months, I'll be covering this game more. I know I don't really make that many Cyberpunk videos, but we'll be covering the game more and more on this channel. As we get into the game's release, I'll be playing it, hopefully, actually, definitely day one. Don't know for sure. As long as I can get a PS5, I'll get it for that as well. But we'll have videos on it when the game actually comes out as well. So lots of Cyberpunk 2077 videos coming to you. Let me know in the comments below any kind of ideas that you guys want to see from me, anything you want me to talk about regarding this game. But I'm very pumped. I obviously want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this Night City event? What are you guys excited for in Cyberpunk? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed, have the bell icon turned on, and thank you so much for watching, guys. I truly appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.